We're back. We're going to show you now how to take the cup off of the rails, off the gantry. Several different methods, but some people in the field have come up with some pretty good ones. We're fixing to show you the easiest way we've found to remove the cup. Then once we get the cup out and off the gantry, we're going to set it on the table for a little bit of up close and personal stuff. We'll talk about the components, what they do, and how we can check them during diagnostics. So to start with, we're going to raise the gantry to a height that's easy to work with and lock the belt in place. Now we're going to disconnect the harness. We'll have to take the cup off, or I'm sorry, take the floor off the cup. There's 3 screws, Phillips head screws. I'm going to go ahead and let him take the harness out. There's some particulars about how to do it, but once we get the cup on the table, we're going to show you up close exactly what he's doing.
Should have brought a pointer. Damn.
Alright, now we've jumped a little bit ahead of you, but let's review what we've done. Right now we've got the harness removed from the cup. We also have the X belt removed from the cup. Now as far as the X belt goes, reinstalling that, why don't you visit our film about how to install it. It's a whole lot easier, and we're not going to go in much detail on this one. Next, we've removed the 4 nuts and screws from the front rail. Mr. Hands is showing you that. And now we've lowered the gantry and locked it in place approximately 1/2 of the height of the port door. Slide that port door down. See? Now he's going to slide that port door down and move that front V rail over. Now you'll see what's happening on this side is we've created a gap. Now we can easily remove the cup, and there it is. Alright, now we're going to situate and sit at the table and show you some up close and personal. Alright, we've got it on a table here, and let's talk about some of the components. First of all is the cup wall assembly. It's located here. It's what catches the product as it slides out. The floor, we call this the cup floor. This needs to be clean and smooth. Don't put any WD-40 on it. I know a lot of the older guys love that stuff, but it's not the place for it. You want to clean it with just a damp rag. As far as the cup wall assembly goes, you've got a spring-loaded called a trip arm. We've seen these springs break and it'll actually fall down. Make sure that's good and strong. You'll also want to make sure that the cup arm is straight from front to back. A lot of guys will mistakenly bend this out or in order to grab the trip hook on the side of the machine when it's trying to vend. But actually that type of an adjustment needs to be done in the calibrate called the port X alignment of the calibration alignment. We'll go through that a little bit on our function testing. Also, you have a return spring on the other side where the hinge is. Pretty much it. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the bottom. There are 2 V-rollers. These V-rollers would probably be the reason you'd want to take the cup out now. A lot of folks like to swap the entire cup when they have a problem. But truthfully, what we're fixing to do, we'll show you the individual components, and it's just as easy to change the individual component as it is to change the entire cup. These pulleys, however, when they wear, they are bearings on races inside there, and they do come apart from time to time. When they come apart, the cup tends to want to wobble on the gantry. When it wobbles, it'll miss Venn. The plunger won't align with the keyway on the shelf. The trip arm will miss the hook on occasion as it's going down because it's leaning one way away from the wall. Alright, let's go ahead and take the floor off and talk about what's inside. Alright, the floor itself on the bottom side have counterpoints. They're used here and here, here, and I believe here, are used to hold the motors in position and also hold the pin bearings for the gears down. If I lift these gears out, you'll see the pin bearings. I hope you're seeing them. We'll just set it down there so you can see that. Alright. Those are the gear assemblies. Those pin bearings are held down into little moorings. They're much too small to catch on this camera, so just take my word for it, they're there. You also have a plunger motor, which causes the plunger itself to extend and retract. You have a Venn motor. The Venn motor causes the plunger to turn during the Venn process. There is also on the front of the Venn motor is a small magnet. The magnet, as it turns, the changing lines of flux is sensed by this Hall effect sensor right next to it, and it is called the tachometer. The control board needs to know if the motor's turning or not, to know if the column is sold out or if there's another hardware failure or an electrical failure in the cup. So it sees that. On the front, you have a magnetic home sensor. This is also a Hall effect sensor, but it's used for homing the cabinet. It's also used in some software versions. It's used, thank you kitty cat, it's used as a centering position for each vent. If you'll notice on the earlier units, the cup will go to the center position of a cell and then shift left or right. It is this signal right here it's looking for. There's a magnet under the price label of every odd cell number in the cabinet. You can put a piece of metal right up in front of it and you'll feel it. It'll grab hold of it for you. There's also the cup interconnect board, and then we have a sensor here, cup sensor. There's an emitter here and a receiver here. Now if Mr. Hands will do the honor and open up that side, you'll see how you gain access to the sensor board. Okay. Now he's taking the emitter out, or I'm sorry, the receiver out. The receiver has a small mylar film, that brown thing that just fell to the cabinet or to the table there. That's actually a diffuser. It sees the ultraviolet light coming from the receiver or from the emitter and allows it to see clear product, things like water or the lighter 7-Ups, Sprites, Sierra Mist, that type of item. Without that, the machine will try to double vent. Now you'll see that that one is kind of curled and wrinkled. We're going to put another one on there because as it curls and wrinkles, light gets past it. So we'll put a new one. If that unit was in good shape, we can actually turn it over, but that looks like it's wrinkled from front to back. So we'll put a crisp new one in there before we're done. On the other side is a board that looks very much like this one, but it has a clear LED, and it's the actual emitter of it. You can see it. There should be a clear opening on, or a clear film on it, just to protect the lens and keep it clean. All right, now if you'll go ahead and put that back in there, Mr. Hands. And even Mr. Hands doesn't realize it's upside down. Now on the bottom, that one went in pretty easily, but there is a shelf on the bottom of this cover that the board sits on top of. Occasionally you'll have to take a screwdriver and just stick it up from the bottom to raise it up in order to get it to lock into place. Now each of these components can be function tested and under diagnostics. The plunger motor, the Venn motor, and the tachometer, you will find a test for those called cup test. The correct function of that test is the plunger will extend, will turn for about 15 seconds, and then retract. If it does that, then we can assume the X harness, the motors are in good shape, and you shouldn't be expecting to have problem with that during operation. The LED sensors here, or the cup sensors, and the magnetic home sensors, is their test under sensor test. This would be the CS, or cup sensor, and this right here would be mag, M-A-G. When there's nothing in front of the mag, it indicates 0. When you put a magnet in front of it of the correct polarity and intensity, it's going to change to 1. This right here, when there's nothing blocking the beam, will be a 0. When you put your hand in front of it, or you put a can inside of it blocking the beam, it will change to 1. Alright, we're going to go ahead and put the cup floor in. Once we make sure everything's connected, we're going to settle the cup floor down there. There seems to be some confusion. On the cup floor there are shoulders that the screws hold down. Here, here, and here. The screws settle down on that and hold the cup floor in place. If these become broken, cracked, or actually gone, what's going to happen is as the motors turn, the floor is going to dance. It's going to raise and fall. It's going to cause the gears to bind and break. You may find that. So, putting this cup floor back in place is very important. Go ahead and place it. Lay it flat and just easily, smoothly, it should fall right into place. Remember, it's got counterpoints. Now you see how easily that went? You see how flat it is up front? If you would for me, Mr. Hans, turn that around for me, please. Let's see the back. The back is okay. The back can have some play. But up front, where those 3 screws hold it down, it should be no harder than what he just did to put it in. And always use all 3 screws to hold that floor down. So he'll go ahead and install that. Then we're going to talk about, we have another sample cup here, we're going to talk about how to route the harness correctly, because you'll need to do that while installing it. Alright, using this older cup to dramatize the correct way that harness routes, I'm using kind of a yellow pipe cleaner. What we're going to do is show you the correct way to route this harness. Believe it or not, you can introduce just as many problems for yourself by misrouting this harness and allowing it to hang down and grab things as it's moving left and right. So it's very important. The chain is going to connect here. The harness is going to travel up, comes back under here into this artificial channel created by the plastic molding of the cup and the cup cable retainer. Is that right? Cup harness retainer. It's going to go under the tongue right here, and that is part of the metal cup harness retainer. And it's going to go into this rectangular hole, but you'll notice there's a little dimple right here. It's kind of a crescent. That harness needs to go up in here. If it's out here, there's a chance it's going to bind. If it's out here, it's going to drag. Once we get inside the cup, it's just as important. Go ahead and remove the floor for us there, Mr. Hans. Alright, and lean it up. You'll see we're coming through the little crescent opening. We're going to go around this post and to here. Now, one of our videos is the installation of the new 3-piece replacement harness. This is a single-piece machine which left you a lot of ability to adjust the length here. Well, now all of that's been removed. You don't have to guess how long your harness has to be. If you do exactly what we just showed you on the bottom side with the harness, which we're fixing to show you, you'll see that it lines up exactly the right length that you're going to need. Exactly right there. Alright, we've removed the pipe cleaner, and what we're going to do is we're going to show you what Mr. Hans is going to do while he's under the cup. You're probably not going to be able to see it, so this is a great opportunity for you to see it before you have to do it yourself. First of all, the very end of the harness comes like this. It actually has the last link has screws in it, or a screw hole in it, and it's used to attach to the belly of the cup. But because these links are plastic, instead of taking that screw out and reusing the new one, we can just snap the harness loose, or the chain loose, and then throw the lead link away on our replacement harness. So what we'll do is let Mr. Hands go ahead and hook that back up. Okay. Little pre-positioning there. Pay no attention to the man with the pair of needle nose pliers. All he's going to do is make that plastic link connect to the first link that's already screwed in. Okay. He's going to route the harness up and do a 180 degree under that retainer. Push it down into the groove that's created by the cup harness retainer and the plastic molding. He's slipped it under the tongue, and now he's passing it up through the floor of the cup. It'll be a little more challenging trying to do it from the bottom up, but this is exactly what you'll be doing. Now once you're inside the cup, as we showed you with the wire tie, you're going to push it into the opening, the oval opening. And around the post, and plug it into your control board. Now, as we've explained on the newer harnesses, all of this is pre-measured and you won't have to guess. If you do exactly what we just showed you, or as we attempted for you to see, you'll get it right. Alright, let's turn it over one more time and show them what they're doing. Okay. Okay. Stand it up a little bit better. There we go. Now if you'll see, right there, the harness and the chain are connected here. The harness continues on. It goes under that metal bracket, 180, down this opening, on top of the tongue, into the rectangle. We tuck it into the crescent, and then on the inside we go around the post and plug it into the control board. Easy peasy. Any questions? I didn't think so. We were talking about the V-grooved rails, or the V-grooved pulleys. The front rail is actually V-grooved to keep the cup square and to keep it from coming off of the rails. What we do, the reason we did this was to slide it over and come off the end of the rails. When you go back on with it, you're going to have to line those V-grooves up and slide it over before we push the rail into place. So go right ahead and do that for us. Alright, I have overlooked something very important. Mr. Hands has decided to invite the cat to help us. But in order to change those pulleys, when the pulleys go bad, the bearings come loose, to change those pulleys is very, very easy. You just grab it with your finger, grab it with your finger, and pull it back like you would a trigger. And it'll pop right out. Little technical problem. Alright. Now go ahead and pull the pulley off. You'll see what he's going to do with his finger. It pops right out. And in order to put it back in, you simply put it in place. Little point of interest from troubleshooting and maintenance. If you're having problems with a cup and you determine that you've got a bad pulley, check the V-groove on the front rail for debris. There could be something laying inside there, right up inside here, anywhere along the length of the rail, that'll be causing that cup to bump and grind and stop the Venn process. So double check that also. You can go ahead and put it in place now. And what he's going to do is simply line those V-groove rails up, or pulleys with the rail, and slide it over. Once he's got that in place, he's going to pull the rail back, Hold the port door down because it'll slam shut on you. And we finish the process up by simply installing the 4 screws and nuts, reinstalling the X-belt, and reconnecting the harness. Alright, so we finished up with removing the cup, replacing the cup, and we're ready for function testing. For a thorough function testing, please view our video on installing the new 3-piece harness. Thanks for viewing. We hope you learned something.